Hey there, I'm Layne Johnson. Welcome to my studio. Painting bluebonnets is always fun. In fact, right now it's about to turn spring, so this is just the right time for this painting. But bluebonnets are always fun because there's different ways you can approach them. And I've always said it's best to paint a bluebonnet, use the impression of bluebonnets, not, in other words, not to paint every single little bluebonnet that you see, because that's not the way our eyes see. Also, it's like the blue on a bluebonnet is like an ultramarine combination, so it's generally a very bright blue. The real flowers like that. But as the flowers recede into the distance, it loses its color intensity a little bit. So how do you depict that? Do you just add white to it? No, that's not the way I do it. Sometimes if you want to knock down the intensity, you use its complementary color. And since we're talking about blue, what's the complement of blue? Orange. So you add a little bit of that orange into the blue, and it kind of knocks it down, it grays it down. So when you start adding color to it, you can see the big difference. It's not such a crazy wild blue, so it won't jump out. So as you move forward, then you start actually using the more brighter color. You still have to watch out for your focal point. You don't want bright colors going way over on the side when you want your eye to go someplace else in the painting. So you kind of just have to use your best judgment. A lot of times what I do is I will block in areas and then come back and start pulling out details. And bluebonnets are kind of interesting. You'll see them in big waves over a lot of areas. In other areas, you'll see them just sporadically in clumps, and they kind of do clump. It's amazing when you see them blooming. It's like 1 month before, you can see that if you know the bluebonnet and you know it's not blooming at all yet, you'll recognize the really cool little wispy green vegetation. And then when you finally get ready to, when they start blooming, it's like, they just really start exploding. And anything you do here is like, well, it's not permanent. I will always come back in and cut in shadows and pull out highlights. It's a back and forth treatment for flowers. This is not just true of bluebonnets. It's true of any kind of wildflower or any kind of flora, any kind of grasses and things like that, even foliage. You'll add in highlights. Well, I always start with darks first, and then I'll come back with highlights and midtones, and I'll go back and forth, dancing till I get exactly the kind of combination that I want that molds that branch and molds that part of the tree, makes the whole tree come to a complete, realization, so it looks like a real tree. At the same time, again, you got to control where highlights go. You don't want them over in a shadow area, so you have to, as much fun as it is to painting highlights, you do have to control it. So keep it whole thing balanced. And in the end, right now, I'm blocking in the blue. This is not bluebonnet detail at all. I'm just kind of laying out where I want the flowers to be, and then I'll step back and go, yeah, that's good there, or that's too much there maybe, and I'll come back with greens after this is dry and adjust it again. And then I'll come back in with highlights of those little white tips of the bluebonnets that have on there. And as you get closer, you can have a few more detailed bluebonnets, but I always tend to go, let's do that, but make sure they don't jump out in your face, because this is not the focal point of the painting. It's typically going to be in another area. So bluebonnets, they're fun to paint. You got to remember, when you have a lot of times when there's a road going through a pasture that's full of bluebonnets, sometimes it may be a cow path, it may be a road. If it's a road, you're going to have two tracks, and you got to remember that whatever's growing on this side and whatever's going on that side, there's probably something growing in the middle too. So you have to make sure you include a few bluebonnets in the middle part, so that that's the way nature is. Nature finds a way. It's going to grow where it's going to grow. So. As you get into these foreground shadow areas, the blue is going to really jump out on a dark area. So you'd have to watch that too. And like I said, this is block in, so it's not a big deal. You just have fun and locate some of the blue and drop it in. Another cool thing in the hill country, Texas hill country, is you'll very often see a lot of bluebonnets. You'll also see other wildflowers. You'll see little yellow flowers. Of course, you'll see Indian paintbrush, which is another flower that's kind of similar to a bluebonnet, but a completely different color. It's kind of a coral color. But you'll see them together sometimes, and other times you just don't. You see just bluebonnets. Or sometimes you'll see the wild white poppy, which blooms about the same time. And you'll see it blooming beyond the time of bluebonnets. It looks like to me it looks like a mallow, but it's actually a large poppy. And you don't want to try to pick them because they're very prickly. And also there's ants on them. They're in a symbiotic relationship, the ant and the plant, so that an ant will get up there and tickle something, and the plant will secrete some sugar or whatever, and that will feed the ant. The ant will take that, but the ant will also protect the plant. So nature is a wonderful thing, as long as you don't get stung. I think that's March showers bring April flowers. Thanks for joining me in my studio. If you enjoyed this video, you'll also probably enjoy watching the videos I've linked on the screen. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you're ready for more in-depth lessons, consider enrolling on one of my online courses where I teach classical painting techniques for landscape painters. You can find all of my classes at laynejohnson.com or click on the link in the description below.